and pCloudy. I am Prashant. I lead the engineering effort at pCloudy. My main focus today is to show you how to achieve continuous integration for Android using Jenkins and Appium over pCloudy. This session will roughly last for around 45 to 60 minutes. So without much ado, let us see what we have in store for you today. All right. So here's the agenda for today's session. We will start with a brief introduction of who we are, what we do. Then we will go into a bit of depth on continuous integration for mobile development and what are the difficulties one would face while setting up a continuous integration environment for mobile development. We'll follow up that by enlightening you with where pCloudy comes in and what we do in this space and how it can benefit you. The next step would be a live demo of an actual case where using pCloudy you can run a continuous integration setup, including the build, uploading the APK, and running an Appium test on an APK. We'll follow up that by a brief explanation of how this actually benefits you, and then the floor will be open for questions. So let's jump right in. So who are we? Who are pCloudy? What do we do? At the heart of the entire pCloudy establishment, we are a device cloud. We have a cloud of around 500 odd devices across the world. We buy those devices and host it on our data center so that you don't have to buy. You access them, you access those devices over your browser. You can access them using the web over your browser, or you could access them using a variety of plugins that we provide. We have plugins for Android Studio, we have plugins for Xcode, we have plugins to directly tunnel into a device. You could access pCloudy through any of those mechanisms. You could do manual testing on the devices hosted by us. You could do automation testing also using a plethora of tools like Appium, Monkey, Espresso, and whatnot. You can also get device analytics on our platform. You can also plan your test based on our latest feature called Device Planner, where you could get analytics about which device is used by what percentage of people in which market. You could use that to decide which devices do you want to test your application on. And with our latest acquisition, that is Cloud for Testing, we also provide in-field user experience testing. Using pCloudy, you can test native applications, you can test mobile web applications, you could test hybrid applications, and also, last but not the least, you can also test the latest progressive web applications. As I said just some time back, we have more than 500 real devices, which may I add is best in class in terms of our competitors. When you compare them with our competitors, nobody in the market has such a wide variety of devices and such a wide range of devices, and such a wide number of devices also. Many of our devices have real SIMs in them, wherein you can test use cases that involve calling or messaging or any operator specific or network specific test cases. We have devices that are located at 4 different locations in the world. We have one at California in the United States, we have one at Bangalore, we have one at Philippines, and one at Sydney in Australia. So using these, you can test devices from across the world, and you can access the devices that are nearest to you, that are nearest to where whichever part of the world you live in. Our business works in 3 different flavors. The main the main part which you see at www.pcloudy.com is the public cloud. Here you can log in and you can get 60 minutes of free usage as long as you're a first time registration. And you can access our devices. All these 500 odd devices would be available for you. Uh, uh, and you can do all the testings and all the you can benefit from all the features that I just explained to you. Apart from that, we have something that we call a private cloud. A private cloud is a much smaller instance of the public cloud. Uh, if you are a private cloud customer, the entire cloud belongs to you, and thereby all the devices that are on that cloud are always available for people of your organization, uh, which essentially means you have unlimited usages of that particular device. So those devices are exclusively for your organization, and there is no limit to the amount of usage that you can do for those or usage that you can do on those devices. Uh, that was the private cloud. Apart from the private cloud, we have something known as the on-premise cloud, which is very similar to the private cloud, but with an added advantage that the cloud would be in your premises. So this gives you quite a lot of flexibility. You could have the devices that you want. It could be your own devices, and along with the benefits of the device being always available and you can have unlimited usage, you can also have a larger number of customizations. You can also connect devices that are not mobile phones. As long as they have a display, you can connect them to pCloudy, and those devices would be visible on our portal. So overall, this is what we are and this is what we do, and this is all our offerings. So going ahead, let me go to, yeah, let's start with continuous integration. So for those who do not know, continuous integration is a process by which you can make sure that at every step of development your final product is built and tested and properly and thoroughly validated before you make a release. So the essential steps that you follow is that you do a development stage, and then you commit the code changes to your source control, and then an automatic build system takes the code from a source control, builds it, runs whatever test that you want to run, and then certifies it before a human interacts with it for manual testing or before you can actually make a release. So the de facto monopoly in the market right now for continuous integration is Jenkins. Jenkins is perhaps the most used continuous integration solution, and it is a very flexible and a reliable product, which, as I said some time back, is more or less a de facto monopoly. What Jenkins does is it automates your build and test processes. In fact, not just build and test processes, it does a lot of things. But the biggest benefit that people derive from Jenkins is in the build and test arena. And Jenkins is unbelievably popular across the world, primarily because it's very flexible. It's easy to learn. You do not need to be a rocket scientist to be able to set up something on Jenkins. It's very easy to learn. Anyone can learn Jenkins, and Jenkins is quite a bit robust, and it is very reliable. So because of all these reasons, Jenkins is more or less the default standard for quite a lot of domains when it comes to continuous integration or continuous delivery or the overall DevOps pipeline. And that is what we would be using right now to show a continuous integration pipeline demonstration. Going ahead, let me throw some light on the difficulties that people face when running continuous integration and continuous testing on mobile apps or in general on mobile devices. One big problem that occurs with mobile devices are, well, they are mobile, which means that they are not computers in the true sense. So if you are a mobile developer, you have to make sure that the mobile device is connected to some of your build servers, and you're also able to make sure that you also need to make sure that all the versions and all those interoperability things, interoperability related stuff are taken care, and different versions of operating system like Android and iOS, and different combinations of screen sizes are all taken care of. So essentially, mobile phones do not fit properly into the automation and such you know setups, specifically because it's actually a different computer running on a different operating system. So there are interoperability and interconnectivity issues. Also, uh, many times, let's take the example of Appium. Appium and Jenkins are actually two different worlds apart, and one needs to be able to somehow connect both these different worlds in an easy way for any kind of meaningful CI setup to be run. Also, the other problem that you have is there's a lot of fragmentation in the mobile phone uh, arena. Testing your applications on one phone usually is not enough to guarantee that your application is properly tested. You have to test on different permutations and combinations of screen sizes, resolutions, uh, operating system versions, and whatnot. So being able to test on a limited number of phones perhaps may not be enough many times in the mobile development scenario. Also, there is really no standard framework for mobile testing these days. There are quite a lot of frameworks that come and go, and you are always uh, in a mode where you have to learn different formats and different frameworks in order to be able to satisfactorily test your application. Uh, that is where pCloudy comes in. We support multiple frameworks, the most popular of them being Appium. In fact, Appium is the demo that I'll be showing to you today. Apart from that, we support other test frameworks like Monkey and Espresso. So we have quite a few automations, as I said before. We have support for Appium, Espresso, Monkey, which you can use for your testing. This particular demo will show you how to combine Jenkins and Appium and run a basic continuous integration setup. So before I actually go into the demo, I'll just explain to you a bit uh, as to what I'm going to show you in this demo. So I'll start with showing the configurations that I have done in Jenkins. Uh, I have a project running in Android Studio where I would be uh, doing a bit of a code change in my code, and committing that into Git. And once the code is committed into Git, I will show you how the code gets taken from Git by Jenkins, and it builds the code and creates a Android APK file for me. I'll also show you where I put my credentials so that I can book devices on pCloudy and upload this generated APK to pCloudy so that I can run an Appium test case on top of that. For that, pCloudy, there is a pCloudy Jenkins plugin, which which I will show you how to configure. And once that is done, the entire CI setup is uh, properly visible for you. So that is what I would be showing to you. So without further ado, let us go into the demo. All right. So let me just show you my Android Studio. Here is my Android Studio. I have a bit of code which I have written here. It's just a simple application. And this code, the name of the project is, if you can see properly, it's the name of the project is pCloudy sample Android app. This application is also hosted on Git. As you can see here, pCloudy sample Android application. If you note carefully, I have updated this application around 40 minutes back. while running this demo, I will update the code again, and I'll show it to you before Jenkins picks it up. So this is the overall picture of my code. Let me also show you how it works on Jenkins. So here is the configuration page for my project. So what I have done is, here you can see I have configured it to the same pCloudy sample Android app. So Jenkins would pick up this project from GitHub and directly build it. So here I have configured the location of the project on GitHub. I've also given the credentials for my GitHub access, and also I told it which branch to pick up the code from. Ideally, I would have polled the source control mechanism and I would have given a schedule here. But for the purposes of this demo, to make it a bit easier, I am not doing a poll, and I would be manually starting the build. And here is the build. I would be building the Android Studio project using Gradle, using the Gradle wrapper. And here is the location of the Gradle wrapper, and here is the the task that needs to be performed by Gradle. That is the build step. The next step is to execute the test suite on pCloudy. This this is the pCloudy Jenkins plugin, which you can download from www.pcloudy.com. And once you have integrated it with, there are a few easy steps to actually integrate it with your Jenkins setup. And once you have done that, this is how it looks. So here in the first step, for executing the test suite on pCloudy, there are 3 steps that you need to follow. In the first step is basically about the credentials. So you need to give your need to give the URL of the pCloudy setup that you want to connect to. So here I'm trying to connect to the public setup, which is by device.pcloudy.com. If you are a private cloud customer or an on-premise cloud customer, the URL will differ a bit. So you'll have to change the URL and use that particular URL. You also give the username and the API key. So for those who do not know, I'll just show you how to retrieve your API key. You need to go to the top right in pcloudy.com, go to where your name is shown. From there, you can go to settings, and you would see your API access key here. Wait for it to come up. Yeah, there it is. You can copy the API access key from here, and you can paste it here. That's all. The next step is your Appium setup. So this is an Appium, Appium jar file that has the Appium test case and the tests that are running in it. So we just need to give a command line path for that Java Appium project. Also, you need to give the path of the app that has been built by Jenkins, which essentially is the path workspace which Jenkins had used to build the app. You also need to mention how long do you need the automation to run. I have put 5 minutes here. That was step 2, which was more about setting up your Appium test case. The step 3 is mostly about the device that you want to run your Appium on. So here you can select a different Android version, and then you can decide which device you want to connect to. Whichever device you decide to use, you just need to click the checkbox here. So I have already selected 2 devices. One is the Motorola Moto E3 Power, which runs on Android 6.0, and another is the Google Pixel, which runs on Android 7.1. So overall, that's all the setup that has been done. So let's go back. So that's the project. That's the settings that I have done. Now I'll go to the code. I'll do some change, and we'll see how the entire thing comes together. So for the sake of this demo, I'll just add an extra line of code, and I'll just say commented code, just so that it gets a new new version of the code and it can download the code. So I'll go to my version control system, which is Git here. I'll push a commit. I'll just say I added a committed line, and there you go. I have committed this code, and let me just push the code also. Sorry. So there you go. While it is pushing, if you can see, there's a small progress bar, and yeah, there you go. The push has been successful. Let's go and check the Git project. So if you see, I'll let it refresh for some time, and yeah, there you go. So it shows that there has been a code change 31 seconds back. This was the code change that we did. So now the next step is I'll go to Jenkins and I'll just say build now. Ideally, what would have happened is I would have configured it to run in a schedule, but since this is a demo, I can just show the build now here. So I ask it to build now, and it has started a new build number 27. Let's go and see what is happening. So there you go. It has started a Gradle daemon. And as you can see, the build has started, and it's going on pretty fast. And since I have not made many changes, you have seen the build is successful. And if you can see here, it has selected two devices, Motorola E3 Power and Google Pixel, which is what I had already selected. Now let's go to device.pcloudy, the portal, and see what is happening there. So since this is an Appium test, I'll go and try to see what are my active sessions here. So we'll let it load for some time. It says here that device has been booked successfully. Let us see. Yeah, there it is. The test has started. We can see a live view of what is happening here. There you go. Let the live view load. And the two devices were booked successfully, and both the devices are up, and you can see what is going to happen in those devices. As you can see on the Google Pixel, the Appium demo has started. So this is a very simple test that just starts the application a few times and shows it to the user. We'll wait for some time and let it run for a few times. There you go. It has started on the Motorola phone also. Let us see what Jenkins is saying. So here it is running the tests, and as you can see, it started the test and it is running those tests successfully. So there you go. So let me just summarize what happened. In a span of around 5 to 7 minutes, I managed to change code. I pushed that code into Git. Jenkins was able to download that code and immediately upload the same code, upload the built Android APK executable into pCloudy, and I was able to instantly run tests on pCloudy and also be able to see these tests live. This is a significant achievement, and this is the biggest advantage that as users of pCloudy you get to see when you integrate your Jenkins based build system with the pCloudy's automation tests. So these tests are the tests are still running here. We'll let that continue. As you can see, Jenkins has completed its build. It has run 4 tests, and the CI system has been a success. So that was the demo that I had to show. Going on. So what do you gain from all this? What do you in the what do you benefit from this? Why do you even have to attempt this? And the one word answer is that it takes out the hassle of testing on multiple devices away from your process. Essentially, this is a hassle-free CI. As I showed it to you some time back, you were able to run. I was able to uh, push the code into Git, and within a span of minutes, I was able to uh, get my application tested completely on pCloudy on multiple devices, on devices that I chose. Uh, Nowhere else would you get this easy and this hassle-free CI system. Uh, because of the hassle being taken away from your setup, and also because of the fact that you can test on nearly 500 devices, uh, the tests are more reliable. You can have a really huge array of devices to test, and you can uh, be much more confident about the success of your application once you have tested it using the pCloudy Jenkins plugin. Also, as you have seen, the application process where I wrote the code and the entire build pipeline ran was seamless. You could also see the tests running live to maybe ensure that everything was working fine, and the device connectivity happened very fast, and uh, it all happened seamlessly. No more running behind devices, no more searching for devices, no more trying to check if the USB cable was good enough or not. None of that. You didn't even have to worry about any of the devices. It is that easy and it is that seamless. So these are the real benefits that you would be getting when you use our system to run your continuous integration system. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us at this hour. Thanks a lot for spending your time listening to our webinar. And I would now open the field for questions. Okay, one question that I have is on how many devices that you can run this parallelly. Uh, you can run this parallelly on quite a few devices. Although in live view you'll not be able to see more than 5 or 6 devices simultaneously, but that doesn't stop you from running the same tests without live view. These You can connect as many as 20-30 devices simultaneously using Appium, and those tests will run properly without any hitch. Another question is that you showed this code on Android. Does the same thing work on iOS also? The answer is yes, it does work on iOS also. The same process can be repeated on iOS. Appium, Jenkins, this entire thing runs on iOS. The only hitch is that your Jenkins setup should be running on a Mac, because you can build iOS only on a Mac. So you'll need to have a Mac-based node to run Jenkins. Other than that, there is no problem running a continuous integration using Jenkins on pCloudy. One more question is, so you have all physical devices at 4 locations across the globe. Yes, these are all physical devices. In fact, our business model does not allow non-physical devices. Every single device that we have is a physical device. We do not work with emulators or virtual machines or anything like that. These are all real physical devices. Any other questions? There's one more question. I think this is a follow-up of the previous question. The question says, for all these devices, you keep the latest version of OS updated? The answer is no, we do not keep the latest version of OS updated. The reason is simple, that not all customers require the latest version of OS. We do have the latest version of all OS, but we do not do it for all the devices. We have a careful plan based on which we decide when to update the operating systems for all devices. In fact, many of our customers come to us because precisely because we have older versions of operating systems also. So we support the entire range of operating system from the oldest to the latest. We do not update the latest OS for all the devices. However, we do have quite a lot of devices which have the latest versions of the OSs. All right, there seems to be no more questions. Then yeah, I will sign out for now. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen, for attending this session. Have a great day. Thank you.